Disclaimer: the content presented in this video is not intended to spread misinformation or falsehoods. It should be understood as speculative information and analysis based on publicly available data and opinions. We adhere to the laws and regulations of the United States, where freedom of expression and the sharing of opinions are protected rights. Any information presented here should be viewed with the understanding that it represents conjecture and personal interpretation, rather than established facts. It is essential to critically evaluate and verify any information provided in this video and seek multiple sources for a comprehensive understanding of the topics discussed. Additionally, this content strongly condemns violence in all its forms. It is our firm belief that peaceful dialogue and non-violent solutions are the only acceptable means of resolving conflicts. Any reference to violence is made solely for the purpose of discouraging it and promoting a peaceful and just society.
Me gusta la canela, me gustas tú. Me gusta el fuego, me gustas tú. Me gusta la canela, me gustas tú. Me gusta el fuego, me gustas tú. Me gusta menear, me gustas. Me gusta la canela, me gustas tú. Me gusta el fuego, me gustas tú. Me gusta menear.
The war is here to stay. It is clear. We are looking at a global conflict. It has not started recently, and it's not going to end soon. Ukraine, Nagorno Karabakh, Africa, Syria, escalations in Asia, China, internal and external affairs are on the brink of inflammation. Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, Israel is now rapidly spiraling out of control. Immigration crisis, drug and criminality crisis in all the Western countries is active warfare. Terrorism, nationalism, Naziism, radicalism. Biological viral warfare is arguably in use. Information war is raging. All the ethical, ideological, civil, and other rights and freedoms are under brutal attacks. Very concept of human being and its genders is attacked relentlessly. Who is behind all these escalations? This war is fought between ideologues, hiding in the shadows, pushing various countries and peoples against each other using the historical disputes, pride, corruption, lust, hypocrisy, and all other deadly sins which so-called leaders are so vulnerable for. There is a globalist agenda which requires the society as we know it to burn and fall into a total war. Neocons and other Satanists are openly admitting that they are here to change the world. Change comes as not just a slogan or a gentle change, of course. No, it is a violent and brutal process which will harvest millions of lives. This is not a secret, nor it is a mystery. The real's mystery is why the people around the globe fall for it in today's world. Unfortunately, there is not a clear answer, at least I do not have it. Perhaps it is how weak and susceptible creatures like humankind are destined to live out their short lives. Or perhaps it is some kind of simulation or a game. We will explore this in further videos. However, now we want to go in and explore what is waiting for us in the fog of near future. Let us speculate and fantasize. Obviously, we do not know what it holds. Topic number 1. Ukrainian campaign is now clear that is going to be grinding to a halt very soon. Estimation is that the funding is going to run out in the next months. Unless Biden and his handlers are going to find additional funds, this is over soon. There are speculations on how this is going to end, but there are a number of scenarios which should be outlined. 1. Ukrainian army is forced to halt large-scale operations which it had been attempting with infantry operations into enemy-held territory. This approach had been criticized by the Western experts because it had limited chances to succeed due to lack of aviation support, lack of artillery, lack of training, lack of demining equipment, lack of, well, everything. This is basically a suicide mission into concrete and iron Russian bunkers with technologically advanced defenses, drones, thermal vision, aviation, both tactical and strategic, missile precision strikes from every direction, armor, machine guns, thermobaric flamethrowers, 2 systems, massive artillery firepower, essentially a wall of flame and fire. Certain death. Attrition was perhaps in 50% or more every month in some units. Only ones who were winning on their battlefields are the propagandists who were telling the world how troops with not training and no heavy armor and aviation support walking into a fire trap could have seen losses less than their enemy. Lies, lies, and more blatant lies. These things are less than intelligent at best and criminal at worst. Regardless, the result will be that Ukrainian troops will first lose their ability to attack, and then they will lose their ability to defend, and panic will set in, bringing chaos. This happened before and will happen again. 2. Poland massed troops, as they elegantly put it, on the border with Belarus. However, to the careful eye, it is obvious from a glance on the map that the border with Belarus is right next to border with Ukraine and its western lands. To those that had been following some key events in history and some of the most recent events, it will jump out that Poland strongly believes that that land historically belongs to them. President Duda visited Lviv in the past year to see how he will be received by the people, and to his pleasure, he was received jubilant. Poland had been busy building up its military, society, and other institutes, and more importantly, had been setting some ambitious goals. One of their goals is to gain access to all 3 seas: Baltic, Black, and Adriatic, allegiantly. Well, when is the time to move if not now? Pieces had been set in motion, it's only a matter of time. 3. Americans are also there in force and present. 101st Airborne, 82nd Assault Brigade, other units in Europe are reaching 100,000 troop count with equipment and weapons systems. What is their role in this? Well, my hunch is that they will be guaranteeing Russian non-engagement with the Poles when the time comes. This is a controlled demolition attempted. Will it succeed? Only time will tell. 4. All the above is only possible if some kind of agreement will be ironed out behind the scenes with the Russians. Only when the Russian army will be gaining a lot of ground and fast the phone call will be made. Are the Russians going to accept it? From the first glance, they should not be interested, but if given some consideration, it would become apparent that the Russians, who already had this unpleasant experience in the 1950s, would not be interested in controlling a hostile Western Ukrainian territory. Notorious Banderites, UPA, and other nationalists were fighting a guerrilla war there for years and cost USSR at least 40,000 troops after the World War II was over. Important remarks. The CIA operation that moved Ukrainian nationalists, particularly members of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, UPA, to Canada was known as Operation Paperclip, or sometimes referred to as Operation North or Operation West in historical documents. This covert operation took place during the early years of the Cold War, specifically in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Under Operation Paperclip, Western intelligence agencies, including the CIA, sought to recruit and resettle individuals with anti-Soviet sentiments and skills useful for intelligence purposes. Ukrainian nationalists were among those targeted because of their opposition to Soviet rule. Ukrainian nationalists were resettled in Canada and other Western countries under Operation Paperclip. The operation had broader goals of gathering intelligence and expertise against the Soviet Union during the early years of the Cold War. This is the topic for a different video. Point of this is, Moscow will be willing to make this kind of compromise due to obvious high cost of special military operation to them. No desire to engage in guerrilla warfare with the unfriendly population of the region, and the reaching of the status quo with the regional power who otherwise would be addition risk of escalation if contested region would be actively disputed. Perhaps this would be acceptable. Again, only time will tell. 5. Some kind of peace negotiation or a ritual will be held in a Yalta-style meeting. At this time, it is unclear if capitulation of Kiev regime will be required, given that this is not a war declared by any of the involved governments. Therefore, the finalization of active warfare must be conducted according to some kind of protocol. It is also not clear how the Kiev regime will walk into this process, given that had been publicly translated and the legislature that had been put in place. Allegations are that the West is preparing controlled opposition is being prepared to be installed to be able to carry out such actions. Some are floating candidacy of Alexei Arestovich due to his positions, outing from the system for disclosing the fact of anti-air missile destroying civilian dwellings, and other increasingly bold criticisms. Also, he was spotted in US during the US summit Take It or Leave It. Clarity is not available at the time. 6. Importantly, the US administration is looking for an off-ramp from this situation, given that the recourses are required elsewhere, as well as they arguably were able to achieve their goals, such as weakening Putin and Russia, dividing the world, and clearly understanding their allies and foes and the strategic and tactical situation on the global battlefield, testing all the weapons systems and tactics, learning the reaction of financial markets, stress testing the economies, stress testing their own political backing. Many other goals and factors were now apparent and reconsidered in the model. 7. Neocons are also under political pressure and are short on time because of their now obvious basis and corrupt dealings in the US political system. War is the only thing that will delay their complete exposure and consequences from their actions. Essentially, this exposes the failed political system in the US, which was hailed as the most effective one for ages. System, as it was brilliantly designed by the Founding Fathers, works effectively if there is limited systemic corruption. What we are witnessing now is a uni-party with system which is corrupt beyond critical levels, the two-faced Janus. 8. The off-ramp that the Western bosses were looking for to get off the conflict in Ukraine, where, as I mentioned before, they had achieved most of their objections, comes in the form of escalation in Israel. Not everything that's happening there is perfectly planned or executed. However, the scandal with stopping aid to Ukraine is now perfectly eclipsed with escalation in Israel, which is neocons' first and foremost priority. It is clearly defined in their modus operandi, therefore is paramount. Main battle, in their opinion, must break out in the Middle East and would pull in all the Middle East countries. There is a religious and mystical component to that, but we will explore this in the other video. This is just a new stage of the global conflict, which is ongoing for many decades now. Arguably, this conflict never ended at all. New soldiers are taking place in the trenches on the battlefield. New heroes are named, new foes are condemned, new goals and objectives are defined to those who are willing to take up arms and put their lives on the line. This will stay with us until the judgment day, when the ultimate solution to all of the human aggression will be found and apocalypse will be upon us.
Me gusta la canela, me gustas tú. Me gusta el fuego, me gustas tú. Me gusta menear, me gustas tú.